She happened to be the head nurse of a pediatric ICU unit at the time she gave birth to her first daughter. Now, back years ago, the diagnosis was basically a child who was mentally retarded. Her child was born premature, was basically a vegetable. And Michelle says that if she had not been the head of ICU in the pediatric department, they would have pulled the plug on the child, quite frankly, because everyone said it was hopeless. Michelle said it never even crossed her mind that it was hopeless. Now, what happened, it caused her to leave her job, to go home, and to full-time take care of this child. And just as she was doing this, her husband left. And so here it is, just Michelle with this child, taking care of the child. And for 2 years, she stayed in the basement of someone's home and was taking care of this child. Would carry her around. The child couldn't do anything. But one day, at 2 years old, the child, Michelle was starting to feed the child, the little girl, a piece of cracker, and the child reached up and grabbed it. And Michelle said, "You'll never believe how I felt in that moment, because that was a miracle." She said, "It is as if awareness moved into that little body in that second and a miracle took place." Today, that child is the Assistant Attorney General in the state of Texas. Yeah. Now, in a short time after that, Michelle is waking up to healing. A short time after that, she had pneumonia so bad she coughed and broke 2 ribs. And so here she is, still with this child who's healing. She has 2 broken ribs, and she's at her wit's end. She collapsed and had a dream, and I'd like to share with you what she happened in her dream. Cerny, would you give me that song we're going to sing? "I was standing on a golden path on top of a mountain. In the midst of a large mountain range like the Alps, I saw the path winding up each mountainside and disappear over the top, only to reappear off in the distance, another mountain. And I thought, oh God, I have so far to go. I noticed that on both sides of the path, right at my feet, were many monkeys. They were chattering so loudly and so incessantly that they were setting my nerves on edge. They were biting my feet and legs, making them hurt and bleed. I was jumping and dancing around trying to shake these monkeys loose when I heard, 'Don't look down at them, look straight ahead on the path.' I remember how painfully difficult it was for me to look away from those scary, vexing monkeys. I was sure that if I looked away, they would eat me alive. But the longer it took, the worse it became, so I finally gathered all my strength and looked away towards the path. The instant I did, the monkeys literally became paralyzed and silent. Right in midair, they froze. Curiosity drew me to look at them again, and immediately they began to chatter and bite at me. So I looked away and they froze again. Back and forth I went. Every time the same results. And so I began to walk down the path straight before me. And the monkeys remained frozen on my side. Suddenly I approached the top of the first mountain, and there were 2 fire-breathing dragons. Now, have you ever overcome something in your life only to go around the next bend and there it shows up in a bigger form? They were pawing and clawing at the earth, and as I drew closer, I was terrified. And so I froze again. And yet closer and closer they came until I was sure that they were going to devour me. Suddenly I knew that no matter how difficult it was to make my eyes look away from them and to make my feet walk on, that's exactly what I had to do. With more fear than I can describe gripping my heart, I forced my eyes away from the path. I forced my eyes away from them and towards the path in front of me. Immediately the dragons froze in midair, and I never looked towards them again. Standing straight ahead with my eyes fixed on the path, I walked on to safely. When I awoke from my dream, I realized immediately that all the symptoms of disease, fever, and pain were gone. I was strong and refreshed as though I had never been sick. I trust that Michelle will be coming to visit us. She has since become a personal friend. I've had the opportunity to go and to spend time with her in her clinic in San Antonio. And what I know is that as we make ourselves available to this one power and this one presence, that it impresses itself upon us in ways that the mind cannot comprehend. It takes us further than we thought we could go. It uses us as its own, to be its hands, its feet, its eyes, its presence. Now, last week I shared with you some information about a concept which is called the Maharishi effect. Remember, I told you about the Israeli-Lebanese war that took place in the 1980s. And they did a test where they placed people who were trained to embody peace. They placed these people all around the war-torn region and would ask these people at a certain time to hold the idea of peace, to make yourself available, to be the presence of God, to let the one power and the one presence so fill you with peace that that's all you're doing in that time. Every time they did this, the study said, during the window of time that they were at peace, terrorist activities declined, crimes against people declined, emergency room visits declined, and traffic accidents dropped. And every time they stopped doing it, all of this reversed itself and went back up. It says, as individuals alter their consciousness, so too do they affect transformation in the surrounding environment. Now, they actually have done enough. There's now been over 200 scientific studies done in over 30 different countries. And they've been able to reduce this to say that there's a number of people in any population, if you can take 1%, the square root of 1% of a population, basically what that means is, in an area such as ours where we have 400,000 people, Reverend Steve told me that this church has the capacity to impact 400,000 people. And Pierce County is about 800,000. So in order to impact 400,000 people, how many people do you think it needs? According to this, it takes 63 people. 63 people. So I'm inviting us to participate in something that is called 1,000,000 Minutes for Peace. I told you last week I signed 100 of us up for something. Jim, if you'll get that ready. I signed 100 of us up to participate in something on September, and it's only going to take 1 minute of your day. But it's a beginning of how we as a community can begin to realize that the one power and the one presence that we say we believe and affirm every week, what difference does it make until we begin to live it out loud? Until we begin to see healings, until we begin to see lives absolutely set free, until we begin to see whatever it is we're seeking to see right here and among us. Yes? Yes. Whenever you're ready, Jim, to show that.
Because of the war, I had to leave my country.
I lost my father.
Because of the war, I lost my home.
I wasn't sure I was going to see my family ever.
I felt hopeless.
Starving.
Terrified.
Alone.
I am from Sierra Leone.
Liberia.
I'm from Guinea.
Iraq.
Central African Republic.
I'm Muslim.
Christian.
Buddhist.
Catholic.
Jewish.
I believe prayer connects people of all faiths.
Join us on September 21st
at 12 noon
to pray for peace.
Log on to odysseynetworks.org
and sign our peace pledge.
I believe together we can make a difference.
I'm praying for peace.
Join us.
So I signed us up as a congregation of 100. Out in the foyer, I created a sign-up sheet that's really big with 100 slots. And I'm asking us to take this from something that we say, and let's join with these folks from around the world on September 21st, which is the United Nations International Day for World Peace. And let's have 100 of us who at noon on that day, wherever we are and however we feel guided to pray, will get still and be an embodiment of peace. We will practice being the one power and the one presence.